WBAY TV, Bill Jarts, and Cammie Rapson. This is Action 2 News at 5, your first alert station.
A Fond du Lac County man knows he's lucky to be alive after collapsing Monday night as he waited to get into the Packer game at Lambeau Field. As Emily Matesic tells us new at 5, he's searching for the Good Samaritans who helped to save his life.
Friends and coworkers Randy Sobel and Mark Homan are thankful to be sitting next to each other today, just days after Randy Sobel gave his buddy a good scare.
He's unconscious. I seen the eyes roll back in his head, and they're working on him, getting the ambulance, and I'm like, you know, is he going to make it? It
was Monday night outside of the South Gate at Lambeau Field. As the two waited to get into the Packers game, Sobel passed out.
A lot of people thought he was, inebriated and so forth, which he wasn't. I mean, he had a couple beverages, but everybody does before a Packer game. Try to get him back up. He gets kind of on his knees, and then he kind of falls straight forward and kind of limp.
Two bystanders, also in line to get into the game, stepped in to help.
Apparently he has a thready pulse for a doctor on scene, and he is having difficulty keeping consciousness.
The doctor and a nurse, both women, worked on Sobel.
They're giving him CPR, yelling to stay with us, Randy, stay with us, and telling people to get away, we got this.
Paramedics arrived and rushed him to the hospital.
And when the doctor took off my shirt, noticed that my body was full of hives, face was beet red, so they knew it was basically an allergic reaction.
A few EpiPen injections later, Sobel was starting to recover, and the magnitude of those women's actions started to kick in too.
Well, the hardest part is, hearing that, when they got to me, that I didn't have a pulse. So, they basically saved my life.
Now that Sobel is fine and he knows he has an allergy to shellfish, leading him to carry an EpiPen, he wants to track down those women who came to his aid.
They need the proper thanks that they deserve. I mean, being a doctor and a nurse, for them they probably do it every day, so for them it's commonplace. But to know that, without them, would I be here talking to you? Doesn't sound like it.
Mark Homan also posted about the incident on social media. It's gotten some traction, but the women who helped Sobel are still unidentified. They hope for not much longer.
They are God's angels.
In Ripon, Emily Matesic, Action 2 News.
Good afternoon. Welcome into Action 2 News at 4:30. We begin today with a first alert update to a story we first told you about on this newscast on Friday. A Fond du Lac County man lucky to be alive after collapsing last Monday night as he was waiting to get into the Packers game. Two Good Samaritans happened to be right there nearby. They saved his life. Here's a snippet of what we were talking about on Friday.
He fell to the ground, had no pulse, went into anaphylactic shock. There were two bystanders nearby him that literally jumped into action, started doing CPR on him. He had no pulse, and so they were doing CPR on him until paramedics could arrive. They got a faint pulse back. He was loaded into the ambulance, taken to the hospital, where when they ripped his clothes off, they realized that he was covered in hives and was having an allergic reaction as opposed to a heart attack. Gave him a couple of shots from an EpiPen, and he recovered just fine.
So, they basically saved my life. They need the proper thanks that they deserve. I mean, being a doctor and a nurse, for them they probably do it every day, so for them it's commonplace. But to know that, without them, would I be here talking to you? Doesn't sound like it.
All right, that was an incredible story then, as we're joined by Emily Matesic in our Fox Valley newsroom. But that's just part of the story. Emily, what took place after that story aired on Friday?
Well, the full story is what happened. So my story aired on Friday evening, and I almost immediately got a text message from a friend of mine. As we've talked before, my husband's an ICU nurse at Bellin and become friendly with some of the nurses that he works with. And one of the former ICU nurses, Gail Butramovich, she sent me a text message and she said, I think I'm one of those females. So I immediately called her. I was like, what? And she said, yeah. She said it was her and another former ICU nurse Sarah Spicala, they were sort of walking towards the gate, and they came across this scene, and they said that there were already a couple of people that were working on this guy. They sort of jumped in to help. We've since learned that Chad and Jody Nelson, a brother and sister. Chad is also a former ICU nurse. Jody is a police officer in the Madison, with the Madison Police Department. The two of them were working on them. Chad was actually doing the chest compressions. And then there was also a family primary care doctor from Bellin, Dr. Maureen Phillips, who was heading into the game. She just became a season ticket holder after 30 plus years of waiting on the list, and she was walking in when this happened. So these 5 people, all with coincidentally with medical backgrounds, jumped in to help this guy, and we were getting messages into the station to help us identify these people. In the meantime, Randy Sobel was getting messages, as well as his friend Mark Homan, who made a post on Facebook that I talked about in my story on Friday to try to find these people. So we combined it all together, and Mark and I sort of conspired, and I brought 2 of the 3 nurses that came to Randy's aid to Ripon, where he works. We had a 3rd one on FaceTime, and we were able to surprise him today with a visit.
All right. So
It's good to see you. Yeah.
Well, thanks for being here.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
Oh,
it's
thank
really
you.
good to see you. I'm gonna cry.
I've done enough of that lately.
We just
Oh,
wondered so
man.
much about you.
Well,
You know,
thank you.
We just didn't know what happened, and when we left, I went home and I thought, I wonder how he is and who he is and where does he live and does he have a family and is he married, and in this
All
day and
the
age
stuff
you
that
can't find that out, so when the story came about and I talked to Sarah and I'm like, oh, I said, I think we might know this guy.
Yeah, so as you saw right there, the surprise when we took them down to Ripon to meet Randy. Really just a cool experience to be a part of. And I know Gail, the one nurse, so that was even more special for me to have a personal connection to her. Randy was so thankful. Mark, his boss, actually surprised Randy, brought his wife. She was there at the car dealership as well. Yeah, really. They gave us, I got a plant. They gave me this beautiful rose plant. They gave Sarah and Gail also a beautiful plant. And we had Chad on FaceTime for that visit. So he got to see Randy face to face and talk to him about kind of what he was doing. And there was a lot of joking. Randy keeps talking about how he's a little sore from the CPR. He said he can't laugh a lot because it hurts to laugh, but he's glad that he's around to laugh about it now.
Well, it's nice that everybody's laughing about it, but did you get a sense through all these smiles what this actually meant today for these people to get together in this circumstance, obviously wildly different than the first circumstance?
Right. Yeah, and I think you heard Gail kind of talk about it. She and Sarah wondered what happened to this man that they came to the aid to. So did Dr. Phillips. She actually sent Randy a Facebook message and said she actually had checked the roster at the hospital the next day to see if there was a guy named Randy who had been admitted, and there was no name, so she didn't know what happened. Chad and Jody Nelson, the brother and sister, they all sort of wondered what had happened. So to hear that he was okay and to see that he was fine, and this literally happened Monday night, and he was back to work on Wednesday morning. Really was kind of closure for all of them, and especially for Randy, that he was able to meet these people, to thank them for what they did for him. It was really, really heartwarming, and Gail said, I'm gonna cry, and you get kind of teary-eyed thinking about it, and really just a fun story and a great outcome all around.
All right, good people doing good things. Emily, thanks for the really good stories, plural, in this case.
Welcome back to Action 2 News at 6. You're watching your first alert station. A Fond du Lac County man who collapsed at Lambeau Field ahead of last week's Monday night football game was able to meet the people who helped save his life. We first introduced you to Randy Sobel on Friday when he was looking for the female doctor and nurse who gave him aid when he went into anaphylactic shock and collapsed. As Emily Matesic tells us, it was a team of people, all with medical backgrounds, who just happened to be in the right place at the right time.
I was looking for somebody.
Former Bellin Hospital ICU nurses Gail Butramovich and Sarah Spicala happened to run into each other outside of the South Gate at Lambeau Field last Monday night.
I haven't seen her in years, so said hi. We caught up as we walked together, and we were only walking for about 3 minutes, and we came upon the scene.
The two nurses joined other Good Samaritans to help a man, now identified as Randy Sobel, who was in distress.
Got down on the ground and started to assess this man, and other people were around trying to help out as well.
Two of those other people are brother and sister Chad and Jody Nelson. Chad is a nurse, Jody a police officer.
I saw my sister holding his hand and saying, Randy, stay with us, stay with us. So I went on his other side, and then feeling a pulse, and all of a sudden he was purple and just agonal breathing. So I'm like, okay, I guess this is what's happening. So decided to start to do compressions.
The team of 4, plus primary care doctor Maureen Phillips, who was also heading to the game, continued to help Sobel until an ambulance arrived.
I thought about him a lot, and I thought, who is this guy, and where's he from, and does he have a family? Is he married?
Through a Facebook post shared by Randy Sobel's friend looking for those guardian angels and our story last Friday, the pieces started to come together for everyone involved.
I was like, oh my gosh, that's where we were. Like that's the situation. So then just reading the comments, I was like, okay, he survived and he does have a family and he's doing well.
And today, Sarah Spicala and Gail Butramovitz paid Randy Sobel a surprise visit at work.
That's good to see you. Yeah.
Well, thanks for being here.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
Oh,
it's
thank
really
you.
good to see you.
Chad Nelson joined on FaceTime.
Oh, this is the guy that was doing the chest compressions.
Oh, hello.
Yes.
Oh, thank you so much.
The chance to not only identify, but also to meet his Lambeau lifesavers, providing closure and peace of mind for Sobel.
Now, especially that we know who they are and we could properly thank them. They said you had 5 strangers that, other than the brother or sister, that didn't know that each other at all, just happened to be in the same spot at the exact same time, all in the medical field, that just jumped into action is unreal.
And something all involved will never forget. In Ripon, Emily Matesic, Action 2 News.